All right, we are live. It is Monday. Hope everybody's having a good Monday so far. Managed to start a few minutes early. I would have liked to have started earlier, but I had to do some prep before stream. I didn't realize until I was getting ready to go live, and it was a slow morning getting started. We didn't end up taking the puppers anywhere because it was way too cold. But we're back with our name canvas. We finished the N last time, and I do need to flip this guy. I just didn't want to start off with him upside down. I mean, we totally could have, but... So we're going to be starting to work on some of the background on this section today. So I've got a turtle. It's hard to see the turtle, but he's there. I had to pull my stencil out that I used on him so that I could figure out where I had him positioned, because I was a little confused with some of my pieces here. So I decided the shell is going to be this variegated like brownish gold tan thing. I didn't know what to do with this color that was in the pack of thread, but you know me, it's gonna kill me to not use it. Don't want to waste it. Okay. So I had to put this on a card. It's part of the delay. Because I don't want to get the name completely in first. So I kind of wanted to progress it as we go, sort of situation. Don't you dare. Come on now. So this is, oh, hold on. When I lost my grip on it, did we, nope, we're still 3 and 3. Alright, this Coats and Clark thread has just been like Tangle City for me. And I don't know if it's just because I'm newer to this medium, this stuff. Doing something silly. Like, I gotta work with some amount of thread. I know, like, some people just be like, we'll use less thread, but that's not really been changing the issue, because even when I have less thread on the needle, it's still tangling pretty badly. Alright. So I'm using 3 strands. Let me just put the other half of this on a card. Because, you know, cats. Uh-oh. There we go. So, I haven't used the DMC floss that much. Now, I have had some of the DMC tangle on me, but I swear it hasn't been nearly as bad as the Coats and Clark stuff. Like, I even was having the husband help me at one point with the Coats and Clark stuff. That was my little travel needle holder. I threw one of my big boy magnets in there that I was using on the heavier wood slice magnets that we had made. To put the needles on so I didn't lose them while we were traveling. And then that all went into my cheap ass backpack that I picked up for our crafty supplies that we brought with us. He brought his whittling stuff and I had brought my sewing stuff because I was like, oh, well, you know, that's fairly portable. Alright, so see if I can remember where I wanted to be here. Alright, I think y'all can see. Should be sort of able to. This is just a standard pre-stretched canvas. Wow. Right out the bat, huh? Right out the bat. There we go. I mean, I might also make them worse because I didn't understand how it tangled. That is a very distinct possibility. But the tangles on the front are a lot easier to deal with than the tangles on the back. So I don't have to pull this guy off the arm. And flip it over. I don't really, that's not quite right. That might have been good enough. I don't really know how much the arm is actually helping here. I might have to zoom out a little bit there just so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, we'll go with that. Trying to check to see where all I am at here. So I will say up here in this corner, having a little bit of an easier time, funnily enough. So I'm kind of doing like a modified satin stitch, where instead of wrapping around the shape entirely, I'm coming back right up next to where I went down. Just so I'm not wasting a bunch of thread on the back side. Because, I mean, we don't have an endless budget. We have a fairly small budget. Oh, wow. What in the hell? How did I do that? Wow. Wow. That's that was a pretty intense one there. That even I didn't fully understand there. Cross that one. Just a little bit. It kind of felt like there was a small gap there. That I didn't necessarily want to be there. Now I do have this on a clippy arm to try to help me hold it up because it does get heavy. It's not like a super heavy thing, but you know, it does get awkward holding it. It is a 10 by 20. For this size, that was as large as I could get. And not have the center support bar with the stretched canvas options that I had available to me. Now, I do have some round ones at my disposal. That we could try to maybe do maybe some sort of modified mandala pattern. So that is something I'm thinking about for later on down the road. Now, oh, I came right up out of the... How the heck did I do that? Magic. It's a talent I have, I swear. So that is something I am considering attempting further down the road. Now, when I'm all done with the sewing part, I'm going to come back in and do a little bit of touch up with a different shade of black that's more matte around the outside, because I realized that was the black I should have used. Really? What did you do here, friend? Why? Oh my. I do know how to knot them, don't I? There we go. As long as I can get it unknotted, that's the important thing, right? And at least so far today, all of the major issues have been topside here. So they've been a bit easier to deal with. So there's that one. Okay, I need my stencil again. Okay, so this guy is part of it. So I'm just gonna kind of jump over to this one. Oh, you guys can't really see that very well. All right, let me zoom out a little bit more. See if that makes things a little bit easier. Hopefully. I'm not thrilled with the way this particular paint went on. I'm not really sure why I bothered trying to use it. Where the heck am I? Oh gosh, we've got to come like way out here. Because you all can't see that at all. The problem is I'm pulling it to me, which is not helping. Sorry. Why is it? Okay. I have my Kindle so I can see chat a little bit easier. I was like, why is it not adjusting on the Kindle? It was a little bit delayed. Sorry about that if none of that had been visible. Doing my best in this far corner. I actually wonder if I can Nope, that's not helping. That's making that worse. Well, what if I come back in to there and I just do that? All right, let's try that. We'll see how that goes. So we're in that bottom corner. At the moment. Now, I don't have stream avatars visible on the screen today, and I do apologize for that. But when we're doing the art streams, I tend to leave that invisible because there are times where I am reusing the footage to do speed condensed versions, speed paints, speed paint types of videos, especially on the longer projects that take several weeks to complete, where I try to time lapse. Oh, dang it. Did not feel like I was in the same hole there, but apparently I was. So I can't really have those on the screen, and I don't really have the computer power to do a separate recording at the same time as the live is happening without that on the screen. My setup is not that powerful. And just not that fancy. I didn't really have the budget for that. As it is, I had to switch my browser back to Chrome last night because Firefox borked so bad it would not restart. My tabs crashed and it's like, oh, do you want to send a crash report? And I'm like, well, can you tell me what's wrong? And they're like, yeah, we'll tell you what's wrong, what happened. And I'm like, okay. And then it wasn't, and then it refused to open, and I'm like, okay. And the husband's like, wow. I was like, yeah, maybe you should go back to Chrome. He's been using Firefox without issue. So I don't understand what it is about this PC that is just mad at Firefox. Like I said, this PC is not that old. My other PC ended up biting the dust right when my dad passed away. I think in 2023. This PC is not that old. I actually used what life insurance money was left after his funeral to replace it. Because he left it to me. And it wasn't like a whole huge amount of money either, so there wasn't a whole lot we could do with that. It was pay a bill or replace the thing that just broke, so we replaced the thing that just broke. Alright, so we can kind of see that starting to come to life up here. And also, when I'm all done with the stitching, I'm going to go over the back either with some Mod Podge. I always call it Mod Podge. Mod Podge. Or some watered down tacky glue. And just go over the back of my stitches just to ensure nobody goes anywhere. Just for that little extra bit of insurance on it, so that we are nice and stable back there. Because why not? Right? Make me feel better. And I managed to unbury a good amount of my tissue paper, because believe it or not, I still have mountains of tissue paper left from that massive tissue paper canvas that I did. And I'm kind of wanting to do another one. Not that size. Something much smaller that perhaps we could stream, but it'll fit on my desk. I have a good number of smaller canvases still laying around, so perhaps we could use one of those. Doesn't always knot, but when it does, oh boy. Get this repositioned here. Alright, so yeah, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this variegated string, but I think for this turtle shell, it's not going to be too bad. Right? Like, I wanted to use it and had no idea what I was going to use it for. And I just kind of was beginning to write it off as well. I guess this will sit here for eternity, but or end up being donated to like the one church resale shop, or eventually yard sale when we go to move. But I don't know when that's going to be. Probably going to be a couple of years at the very least, because we're still trying to figure out what to do. Ideally, we would love to do a tiny house, or at least a much, much smaller house. Like, maybe not 400 square feet, but maybe like 6. Right? Because I need room for the computers. I must have room for the computers. Oh gosh. How did I manage to pull that off? Get this up. How I missed you. I have some exciting news to tell you. I not only started saving money for a pet salamander, but I now have a mature pet fold jumping spider, and I might be winning a free terrarium on a business website that sells terrarium merch and pets, and now I have enough money for a cheap terrarium for your first pet salamander. Okay, nice. Well, good luck with that. Hopefully you win. And hopefully it doesn't take too long for you to save up the funds for your salamander. Tell you, this is one of those days where I am oh so glad that I do not live in South Jersey anymore. Because, oh my god, they have just been pummeled with snow. I've been watching the live cameras on the Atlantic City boardwalk. Just watching the snow pile up, and it was still snowing. Damn it. It was still snowing last check when I woke up before I started stream. It doesn't normally snow that long up there. I mean, they preemptively shut public transit down last night at 6 p.m. You know it's gonna be bad. Like, the governor's like, no, I want this shut down. We're not playing games. And I'm like, oh wow, because usually rule of thumb was for a lot of businesses and a lot of the casinos, because most people worked in the casinos down there. If New Jersey Transit was running, your ass better be at work. Because they're like, take the bus. They're like, we've got customers to serve, we've got hotel guests, you need to be here. But the one, you know how bosses can be hard asses about, what do you mean you're not coming in for X reason, right? And some people are really terrified of driving in the snow. They're not comfortable with it. They don't want to do it. It's just, it's not something they want to do. So they will try to call out. They're like, I'm not driving in this. And they're like, well, you need to be here. And they're like, if you don't come in, you're going to get the point because everybody else is in here. So this one lady who was a cashier at the casino I worked at kind of got guilt tripped into trying to come in. And don't you know, she got into a car accident and ended up losing the vision in one of her eyes after they guilt tripped her into, you better be here. So they had to change the policy of, if somebody says they're not coming in because of the snow and they can't get somebody to drive them or they can't take the bus, the end of discussion. And I was like, wow. Because I don't know if she sued them. I don't know if she had a case because she could have stood her ground about not coming in, but I got stuck there. Husband and I got stuck there at our job. The one snowstorm. They also had a hotel policy or a business policy, not necessarily hotel, but business policy of if there was a big storm coming, because a lot of the employees, not all of them, but a lot of the dealers at the tables and stuff lived in Philadelphia. And they would take the train down, damn it, they would take the bus down to come into work. Or they lived like in, you know, places that were like a good hour commute for them. And they would, especially housekeeping and the dealers, they would be like, hey, we have a block of rooms. Y'all have to share rooms, but we're putting you up in the hotel. You're staying tonight. Everybody that can stay needs to stay. And they would be looking for volunteers to stay so that they had employees on the property to cover for those that were not there, that could not stay because they had kids or whatever, and could not make it back in. And I got conned into staying, and they didn't end up needing me because the main lady that they had me staying to cover her shift ended up getting in. Except I took the bus. My dad and I worked in the same department. He had gone home the night before. I had to come in early that night to so they could get my room situated. And my boss is like, oh yeah, you know, your husband can stay there too. He's like, it's fine, it's just you two in the room. He goes, I don't care. He's like, I want you here. And I'm like, he was doing everything he could. He's like, I'll comp you dinner somewhere. He's like, I'll do anything I can. The boss of the department. He was doing everything and anything to kiss my ass to get me to stay. And I was like, all right, fine. So, we stayed and then found out when they didn't need me, and they're like, well, you can go home then. I'm like, I can't. And they're like, what do you mean you can't? I'm like, they shut down the public transit. I can't get home. I live 20 minutes from here, but I can't walk because it was, like, barrier island for Atlantic City, and I was on the mainland, and I could not walk that in, like, knee-deep snow. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, I'm stuck here until they start running the buses again. And then it ended up that my dad, because of his medical issues, he could not dig the car out. And I was at work, stuck there with the husband. So I was barely getting any sleep because it was noisy, it was loud, because all the employees that were on that floor were treating it like it was a freaking party. And I couldn't sleep, and it was awful. The elevator doors for the shafts kept opening on their own because of the wind. And they were like telling people to use the stairs, and they were like putting safety cones and stuff in front of the elevator doors. They're like, no, you need to use the fire doors. Because the elevators were getting stuck because the doors kept opening on random floors. It was awful. And then after not really sleeping for 2 days, being stuck at work, when they finally did get transit moving, and mind you, I was also working my shifts, I had to end up covering my dad's shift in the end because he couldn't get out and come in. So him and I ended up swapping shifts, because when the buses finally started running, I got the heck out of there. And then as soon as I got home, I had to dig my dad's car out. And that took me like 2.5 hours because of how tired I was and because of how much snow there was, so that he could get out and go work my shift, which I think was a midnight to 8 at that point. I believe at that point I was off the 2 a.m. to 10 a.m.s. Those shifts sucked. I'm like, why does this shift even exist? Why is there a 2 a.m. to 10 a.m.? They had to I accidentally got laid off. Um, they were doing a round of layoffs for cost cutting, and I was like my department boss's go-to person for overnights, right? Like I was the main person for overnights. I would have somebody with me that would overlap a tiny bit. Sometimes they were there till 2 a.m. The busier nights they were there till 4 a.m. But I was there till 8 a.m. No, I was there till 4 a.m. at that point. I'm sorry. I was working 8 to 4s. And there was somebody else that was coming in at 4 a.m. who was technically the is he the director? Yeah, he was technically the director's secretary. But when they did away with all of the secretaries to save money, they had to turn her into a clerk, which is what I was, and teach her how to do all of the clerk jobs. Plus, she was also communicating with the legal department, dealing with records requests for subpoenas and what have you for people that weren't paying their markers and stuff. Because I worked in the line of credit department and for table games and slots. So I would do the paperwork for people trying to apply for lines of credit. And and then it was data entry where I'm like putting in reports that we've gotten back from banks about status of this person's bank account and updating files. We were also one of the very few departments that had access to customers' home addresses, where we could, like, some other departments could input the home address, but we were the only, well, not the only, but we were one of the very few that could access to update or edit home addresses and mailing codes. So our department, when we didn't have anything else to do, they were making us deal with return mail. So if they were like, so when marketing was sending out, the little postcards for, oh, you've got this much in slot play, oh, come on in, we're gonna comp you this night or whatever, this is the concerts that we're hosting this month, that sort of shit. Whenever that stuff was coming back, return to sender, not at this address, then we had to play detective because we had limited internet access as well on a couple of our computer terminals to try to look up the player's name like in the white pages and basically trying to figure out where did this person move to, or if there was a sticker about, oh, this is the new address that we ended up with, then we had to try to put the new address into the computer and hope that the computer liked that address. Some addresses, the computer is just like, nah, that's not a valid address. And I'm like, it is though. I have their ID. And they're like, no, this isn't a valid address. And I'm like, but that's literally what it says on their ID. Like, what is the matter? And so we would either have to change the mail code to no mail and put the reason is of no longer at that address or what have you. And if they were a casino credit player and they had a line of credit, we then would have to suspend their accounts temporarily until we got a valid address from them. So that was always fun. Like, I'm like, this is This is a lot of unnecessary busy work, but I guess it justified our jobs because nobody else had time to do it, especially overnight. During the week, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I would have some stuff to do, but we also had a roster of files that we would have to update once a year, and we had a computer printout because of the regulations for the state. So they would be going through, and if they it was time to update, and if they hadn't been in for a while, then the executives at the decision desk would decide whether or not we were gonna suspend their file. They would look up their recent play history, see when the last time they were in was, you know, kind of get a feel for if they think they're coming back in anytime soon or what have you. And if the file account had truly been inactive for a good amount of time, then they would just, you know, do a inactivity suspension just to keep anything silly from happening with that account. Kind of as like a safety precaution. Because then once it's temporarily suspended, nobody can pull from that account until that person comes over to the desk and talks to us, and we get an updated copy of their ID and make sure that it's really them and that, yeah, they've come back in and they want to pull from their account, you know, just make sure everything's good. And we would do a lot of the busy paperwork at night. There would be casino hosts wanting clients that were coming in at a future date to get set up with credit, so we would kind of do the paperwork then as much as we could. If I couldn't get bank information with the information that I had been given, we would request a bank report through our bank service that we used, or we would have to set it up for a customer phone call in the morning if they were coming in the next day, sort of thing. But then some nights it was just, it was so slow during the day that they finished all of the paperwork before I came in, and I had nothing to do except for maybe some filing. So then shortly after, oh, that's right, I was telling the other story, I got distracted. Yeah, so then I accidentally got laid off. They were looking to cut people from the department, and they had some lady that was cross-trained in our department and also front desk, and they laid her off from our department, which she was absolutely devastated by. She was okay, and I didn't work with her very much, but she was all right. And somebody else, oh, the did she retire or did they lay her off? I can't remember if they laid off the secretary lady or if she retired at that point. I feel like she actually retired, though I don't think she got laid off. She was like in her late 80s. She was certainly old enough to retire, but she used to be a nun. And she was just so bored. She's like, yeah, no, I guess she didn't like being a nun anymore, and decided it wasn't for her. So then she ended up working in the casinos. One second. Sorry, we also had a cat mishap going on. Cat hairball. Let's see, am I, oh yeah, I'm kind of in frame. So where am I? I feel like, oh, okay, I am not where I thought I was. All right. So I was supposed to be on the not laid off list because I was his overnight person. And the higher ups took it upon themselves to lay me off also, and apparently my immediate boss was absolutely livid. And he called me and told me directly himself. And he's like, do not. He goes, do what you need to do for unemployment. He goes, you are eligible. He's like, but do not get another job. He goes, I am fighting to get your job back. He goes, you never were supposed to have been laid off. And he's like, I am trying to figure out what the heck happened. He goes, this was not supposed to happen. He goes, I need you here. And he goes, I don't know how long it's going to take. He goes, but I have a meeting later today. He goes, and I will keep you updated. And I'm like, okay. So then he would call me like every couple of weeks and he's like, I'm still trying to get your job back. I'm still fighting for it. He goes, again, don't take another job yet. But also, unemployment was like up my ass. You need to be applying for jobs. And I'm like, and my mom's like, well, apply, but don't accept anything. Or apply for stuff that you are in no way, shape, or form qualified for. Because unemployment wanted to see that you're looking for another job. And I'm like, okay. So I was kind of in a difficult position. So I'm like, well, these people are saying I need to show that I'm trying to find another job. And my previous boss is like, no, no, don't. Don't be getting another job. Don't take another job. I'm like, okay, well, like, what exactly am I supposed to do here? They're gonna cut my benefits off. So I was laid off for 6 months. Which was not very much not super great because we were trying to get stuff squared away so we could get married, and there was stuff that I was trying to deal with in between all that, and I'm like, and we had bills to pay, and I'm like, I was like, yeah, I kind of, like, I can't wait too much longer. And then he called me, he goes, okay, I've managed to get your job back, but they're only letting me rehire you as part-time. But after you're here for a little bit, he goes, then I'm going to be able to bump you up to full-time. I was like, okay. So that was just like this whole huge fiasco. I wasn't even making that much when the higher-ups pulled that shit. And I'm like, excuse me, there have been people in this department that have worked here so much longer than me that were making way more money than me. And you're gonna lay me off? Like, what? I'm like, that's dumb. Like, I don't even know if I was making $10 an hour at that point. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Absolutely, utterly ridiculous. So when he got me back, because of coverage needs, and again, I was taking the bus and or the train to come in, depending on the time of day. They're like, we need you to work 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. I was like, what? I was like, I have to take the bus in. Now, the one bus ran 24 hours. Once an hour, pretty much. But it was Atlantic City. I was not keen on walking from the bus station in the middle of town down to where my casino was at that time of night by myself. Because I had already had one incident when I was waiting for the employee shuttle. Well, not specifically the employee shuttle, but for a shuttle that took people to the train one morning when I was working till 4 a.m. where some drunk dude on the street thought, I guess, I was a hooker and wanted to kiss me. And I'm like, I am in a full-length winter coat. What? I'm like, no. And I was like, oh my god. And in my casino work uniform, I was like, black pants, you know, clear backpack. I'm just like, what? No. I'm like, I'm not walking by myself through this city at that hour of the night, morning, to come in. So, I then had to come in, or started coming in most nights with my husband. He started at midnight, I think. And so we were getting like an 11, I think a 10:30 bus. Might have been a 10:30 bus. Because that was like the last bus that dropped off in front of, or like a block up, but still in front of our casino. And I'm like, great. So I would be camped out in the employee cafeteria from like 11 p.m. till like 1:50, waiting to clock in on those nights. Not fun, but I also really did not want to do that adventure on my own. So, you know, gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. I think that lasted for, oh gosh, was it another 6 months? That was awful. I hated that. And then and that was because of the way they needed coverage from the layoffs in the department to work with what they had. And then a little while later, well, I got switched back to midnight to 8, so that was a little bit easier to handle. But then a little while later, they had hired one of the other clerk's brothers to be there sometimes as a part-time fill-in. And sometimes she was working the exec desk. So we had an option where the clerk could apply for a next level up license. Like, we had to be licensed for our position because of the sensitive nature of the data that we were handling, essentially. Because, you know, we're dealing with people's bank records and all that stuff. So we had to be vetted and background checked and all that. Fair enough. So we had an option where we could get a dual rate. Well, it might have been what the position was. We could get a key license, which was a step up from the standard license. Side of my own. And this license meant that we could do the job in the back or the job at the decision desk. And New Jersey red tape policies for casinos had a two-party system for casino credit files, where if you were the one that did the paperwork to establish the customer's file for a credit line, you were not the one that could make a decision on whether or not that person was getting a casino line of credit. So there was no funny business going on with people getting lines of credit that had no business getting them. So, and I guess also making sure that these people actually physically existed and what have you. So she, this chick would sometimes be decision making, or she would be, damn it, or she would be in the back working on the files. Now, they tried to offer that to me. However, I think my base casino license for what I was doing, I think it was $350 every X number of years. Because they did expire, and then we did have to go through the renewal process. Usually I just had to take a check down there or walk my ass down to the office and pay it with a credit card or something. But it was good for, you know, X number of years. I think I only remembered renewing it once, maybe twice.
I didn't think you ever got around.
I renewed it at least once, because I remember walking down there. I don't think you were with me. I think I had to go by myself that day. And, the key license that allowed you to be a decision maker on customers' files was $1,200. But there was a catch. If I took the position that the casino was offering to promote me to, which would have been a dual rate employee because I would have had this magical license, I would have had to work there for X number of years, and they would have paid for it in full. But I had to work there for X number of years in that position. if for some reason I left that position before that time period was up, then I would have to pay back the property the money for the license. And I'm like, well, I don't like the sound of that. Then you also had to wear, now when I was in the back, I had a uniform. We had the same uniforms as the table games dealers because we were in the same department, because we were affiliated with table games. So I had the same shirt to wear that the blackjack dealers and the roulette dealers, all them, had to wear. The days that I would be on the front desk making decisions and interacting with customers, I could not wear my uniform for when I was being a clerk. I was going to have to be in like business attire, like business suit, skirt suit. You know, I was going to have to be dressy. I did not own anything that could even be remotely considered dressy to fit that look. Right? I mean, I worked in the craft store before then. So, you know, I had jeans and t-shirts, and I never had a need to be smart business dressed, I guess, is what we'll call it. And I was like, uh-huh. Right. So that's more money out of my pocket that I was going to have to spend. And then I was really going to have be better make-upped and shit. Now, I have personally witnessed, while working in the back in the clerk position, what some of our executives in the key position making decisions on these files have gone through. And I was like, I appreciate the offer. I'd rather be in the back, thank you. Even though it would have been quite a pay increase. But the pay increase, I think it was, oh God, what was it? I think it was $17 an hour. As opposed to my, at the time, I think I was making $11 an hour, $12 an hour at the time. So it was quite a pay increase. However, it was a lot more bullshit. And I would only get the $17 an hour when I was sitting at the desk. I would not get that if I was on the schedule to clerk that day, which is why they called them a dual rate. So you had two different pay rates depending on where you were. And I was like, oh, you know, it just doesn't sound worth it. And I think I did definitely dodge a bullet there, because there was a lot of stupid shit going on and about to start going on. Like, it was getting to the point where they're like, yeah, you're gonna pretty soon, like, they don't want the executives at the desk who are making the decisions. I had one come in at 4 a.m. and then there was a shift change at like 8 p.m. or something. Like, there would be different people coming in at different times. I forget the times that they had them worked out to. But they're like, yeah, due to costs, they want the executives to come in at 6 a.m. instead of 4 a.m. And I'm like, no. That's not how that works. Because I was pretty sure in my brain that I was told at one point that in order for table games to be open, there had to be two people in the credit department at all times, a clerk and an executive who could make decisions on files and like temporary increases and people who walked in that needed their file activated and stuff. Because we had high rollers walk in without notice before, where they just turned up and walked in off the street, and even their hosts were like scrambling to get there, like, oh my god, I had no idea this guy was coming in. And they're like frantically calling us, and they're like, so and so just walked in, and like the floor games manager was like coming over all frantic, we just saw so and so walk in the building. And I'm like, and 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 I'm like, and they're like, yeah, we want them coming in at 6 a.m. And I'm like, so you mean I'm gonna be here alone without a executive for 2 hours? I was like, do you all have any idea the bullshit that happens between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. some mornings? Do you? Because there's been plenty of times where we've had a high roller walk in out of nowhere, and myself and the executive are scrambling to get this file suddenly updated, and calls have to be made, and it's very busy, especially on the weekend. But they were talking about during the week, and I'm like, I wasn't a fan of this. And we had an executive that used to be a pit boss, so he would like manage groups of tables on the casino floor essentially, and oversee those. He came over to our department because he was tired of doing the table game stuff. So I would be with him a lot of mornings, and I liked him. He was pretty cool. He was pretty chill. I didn't mind him. And the few days that I had to deal with that, he would actually call me at like 4 a.m. and or quarter to 4, and he's like, hey, what's going on? Is anything happening? You know, is there any issues? You know, he's like checking in on me to make sure I was okay, which I greatly appreciated more than I think he understood, because I was terrified about being in there with no executive to defer to, because I didn't make enough money for that shit. And I'm not getting in trouble. Y'all don't pay me enough. And I would let him know what was going on, and he's like, all right, he goes, if there's anything going on or something goes on, call me back on my cell. He goes, I'll try to be there by like 5:30. And I'm like, okay. So he would, even if he wasn't quite on the clock yet, which I never knew if he was or not, he was letting me know to call him if something came up, which I greatly appreciated, because the director of the department, when they decided to give up and go to bed for the night, they took sleeping pills. And that was their solution. They're like, well, if something happens between this time and this time, between this 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., you need to call the director. And I'm like, he's asleep. Like, what? How is that gonna work? He's asleep. I will never get him to wake up. So, the solution was for me to call whoever was supposed to be in that morning. And, let them know if something was starting to pop off unexpectedly. But I will say, a little bit towards the end of my tenure there, the end of my time there, they had hired a new guy, part-time. And we were under the impression that he was a waiter at a restaurant at a property down the street. And we're like, okay. Because we weren't quite sure what to expect. That was what they told me. That is what they said they were told. I had the pleasure of training this guy. So they told me that I was going to be training him, and I'm like, okay. So I was sitting there writing up a whole bunch of notes for them, right? You know, because we didn't have a written training log for someone to review about when this, then this, or this, then this. You know, we didn't have like a procedural step by step. It was all like verbally trained into you. And there was a lot of, well, nobody told me what to happen when X happened sort of scenarios. So I took it upon myself to do this for this guy. And I was spending my free time, where I didn't have anything that needed to be done in that moment, working on this for them. And after I hand wrote them out, I then typed it up and printed it out because my handwriting's not the greatest. So he had something to reference when nobody else was there, or if they were stuck and wasn't sure what to do next, you know. Trying to take the initiative to help this guy. And then I met him. And I'm like, oh no. I didn't know if it was like new job anxiety and like kind of like deer in headlights, frozen. I am terrified because I don't understand this job, but I needed a second job and I'm trying to learn, but I am scared. Sort of mental shutdown. Or if this gentleman really had no idea what I was asking him to do. Like, none whatsoever. I didn't know if it was a language barrier or if they were just that terrified. I was not certain. But I was concerned. And I was like, okay, we'll give it. I'll let them know how the day's going. But you know, we will see how this goes. Maybe it'll improve. You know, I was hopeful. Maybe it'll get better. You know, just our first week is going to be a little rough. You know, I was trying to be optimistic, but at the same time, I was also saying to the executive on the desk, I'm like, what's it they used to do? And they're like, we were told they used to be a waiter. I'm like, I don't think so. And they're like, why do you think that? I'm like, they don't understand, or they're absolutely terrified. And I was like, okay, go to the keyboard and type in that passcode they gave you to get in as you. It's 4 digits. Type that in and hit enter. You're going to put your first initial and your last name, and then you're going to put that number. Go ahead and hit enter. And they just stood there and looked at me, and I'm like, hello? Did you not get one? And he's like, no, I have it. And I'm like, okay. Go ahead and put that in right here, right now, in front of me. I'm not going to look at your number. It's blacked out anyway. I can't see it. But I need you to log into the computer. This is how you're going to log in. You need to do this to do anything back here. So to bring it up as you are the user, put that first initial, your last name, hit arrow down, and then put that in. Totally dead blank stare looking at me, and I'm like, sir, keyboard, fingers on the keys. You need to do that right now. You need to do this as you, so you learn as you're doing it. It must have took me almost 15 minutes for him to understand what I wanted him to do. And I'm like, I don't know that if someone was a waiter, they would be having this much trouble understanding what I'm asking them to do, even with the slight language issue. I still think they would have had to have understood enough for people pointing at stuff on the menu saying, I want this, and then you're writing it down. And you had to communicate with the kitchen staff and your other fellow servers and stuff. It's something just didn't feel right to me, and I'm like, okay. As time was going on, it wasn't getting any better. It was actually getting worse. And I'm like, I wrote up all of these notes. I told them I wrote up all of the notes. I gave them all the notes, and I was sitting there working next to them. And they were just kind of sitting there staring at the computer. I'm like, are you okay? Is anything wrong? And they're like, how do I do this? And I'm like, it's right here in your notes. If you're stuck, or if you don't understand the way I worded something, go ahead and tell me. And then I was also trying to show him at the same time. It's like, but here, I can show you. Nothing was penetrating, and I'm just like, I have concerns about him working on his own. And I don't think they believed me at first. And then one of the... Did I go on break? I might have actually went upstairs on my break for a change. Because a lot of the times, I just took my break in the back, because we got paid for our break, right? So they would give us a pager to get a hold of us if they needed us to come back. And a lot of times we could take our break, but if we were the only clerk on duty and they needed us to do something, we got paged back whether we were just sitting down to eat or not, and we had to walk away and come back down, and then we could go back up and finish our break after the fact. So that pissed me off a couple of times. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm just gonna bring my lunch in. I'll just sit back here and eat at one of the back desks. I'm here. You all know I'm here if you need me. But I'm gonna try to like eat my food now. Or I would just snack. I just bring snacks and snack throughout the night. That was fine too. 'Cause it wasn't worth the hassle of me going through the airlocks and getting buzzed in and out with security and fighting across the casino floor to get to the back stairwells that they wanted us to use because we were peon employees. To go up to the cafeteria when half the time there wasn't anything up there that I wanted to eat anyway. So banquet nights, if there was leftover stuff, there'd be some decent stuff up there. Like there'd be like chicken tenders and other stuff.
At least originally.
Originally, yeah. Then it got sadder and sadder, and the sadder it got, then they had us telling us that we could only have one hot meal a shift, like over 8 hours or something. I'm like, but what if I'm here doing a double? Like, what? And then we had to start scanning in and out because the dealers were going up there and eating on every single break that they had, and they had like a break once an hour or something for like 15-20 minutes. And I'm like, well, then make that a rule for the dealers, not for the rest of us. Like, what the hell? And then it just got to the point where it just was too much of a hassle to even bother.
Like, you couldn't even see what they had until you went through their little turnstile they installed.
Yeah, like you had to scan in, and then if there was nothing there that you wanted, you scanned in.
Or if there's something you wanted that you checked before you went to work to see if there might be something. Too bad you scanned.
Yeah. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Because I think at one point they did have a board saying what was up at one point, but it changed throughout the day and they wouldn't always update the board because the kitchen staff was busy. So that wasn't always accurate. And I'm like, seriously? So at that point, I'm just like, I'm just bringing snackies. And I'm not going upstairs. It's literally pointless unless I need to stretch my legs or I need to go get something from the gift shop, candy or something. I'm not. This is dumb. So I had gone on break. Or maybe it was a night I wasn't there. It might have been my night off.
It was your night off. I remember this.
Oh, okay. And I came in the next night, and it was one of the execs that I usually worked with the most. And I was like, so how'd it go? And she was like, she gave me a look, and I was like, oh, that good. He wouldn't even answer the phone. Like, I told him how to answer the phone. And I have phone call anxiety, I get it, but when it's a different ring when it's the executive desk calling you in the back, right? Like the intercom calls. Because they need you to do something. They need you to come up to the front counter. They need you to get a file. They need you to run a report for them. Something. He wasn't even answering the phone. And she actually had to go back there and see if he was even there and try to explain to him how to answer the phone again. And then he apparently was talking to either another casino or it was a customer. I can't remember. And he hung up on them instead of putting them on hold repeatedly. And I was like, oh my God. The horror list just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, oh my God. Come to find out, he was not a waiter. He was a busser. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that explained a whole lot. Because all he needed to do was collect the dirty dishes, put them in the spot, and wipe the tables, essentially. Like I understood at that point. I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So it might have actually been a I don't understand language barrier. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if he was just pretending he didn't understand. Because I have seen some people do that, where they full on understand and they're carrying on a conversation in a different language with someone else. And then I ask them to do something, and they're like, I don't understand. I'm like, I've explained this to you 6 times. Do I need to get that person to explain to you what I'm saying? Will that help? Like, I'm more than willing to let somebody else explain what I need you to do. If they can figure out how to word it in whatever your base language is, I'm more than okay with that, if that will help. And I think somebody else tried to tell them what to do, and they were just like, oh, okay. And then they still didn't do it right. And I'm like, this went on for a couple of months. We were trying so hard to work with this guy. And then they vanished for a while. And I wasn't sure what happened. Because nobody ever really said. And I was like, that's weird. I just kind of assumed they had been let go or it wasn't working out or something. No, none of the other clerks were really sure what happened there. And I don't think it was ever said, or if it was said, I don't think it was ever said to me. And I'm like, okay. And then shortly before I left, they came back. And I was like, oh, they're back. And the one exec looked at me and rolled their eyes and they're like, uh-huh. I was like, oh, okay. Right. Don't ask. Okay. So, I felt like there was a story there that I just didn't know. And probably was never going to know. And I was like, oh, okay. Sure. Right. And I kid you not, I also trained somebody else. I trained a lady, younger girl. She might have been around my age at the time. She might have been a couple years younger. I'm not entirely certain. They had interviewed her, and it was winter, so she had a winter coat on. After she was hired and the paperwork was signed, she then said, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm X amount of months pregnant." And our boss was like, "Oh no." Because we needed her to fill the spot. And, you know, then we had to hold her spot open when she went out for maternity leave. And he was like, "I'm going to have to hire somebody else temporarily again at this point." And while I was training her, it was overnight. It was 8 to 4 shift, I think. It was either 8 to 4 or it was midnight to 8. It was one of those that I was training her. She was not a night owl, or it was the pregnancy. I don't know which. She was exhausted, and I get that. I do. But at the same time, I'm like, how are... I don't remember what shift she was supposed to be going to. I thought it was overnights as well, because I thought she was going to be covering my days off. I thought. Or she was going to be going to like 2 a.m. or something. Because we needed somebody else. Because I was it on overnights. They would have the other lady that did till 2 a.m. I think she came in at 6. Some nights, like my days off, they would have her working till 4 a.m. So her schedule was constantly bouncing. So it was to give us both a break because we hardly ever saw each other. Whenever I did see her, she was always on the phone with one of her kids too, but that's another point. But is this one not gonna cooperate? I might have to get the threader out. Yeah, let me get the threader. So, she was sort of understanding, but I was sitting there trying to train her, and I was explaining how to do something, and I looked over, and she was asleep. And that was a huge no-no. I was like, hey, I was like, wake up. She's like, huh? I was like, you cannot fall asleep. I was like, if you need to get up and move around, then that's what you need to do. If you need to bring snackies to keep yourself awake, then that's what you need to do. I was like, you cannot fall asleep. They will fire you. There have been plenty of people fired and let go because you fell asleep. You're on the shift, you have got to be awake. Like, you have to be awake. I know it sucks, but you need to be awake. Trust me, there were days where I had a migraine where the execs were like, I'm like, I am so sick. And I couldn't leave yet because I was the only one there. I mean, I could have left, but at that point it was like 3 a.m. and I was out at 4, so I was just trying to struggle bust through. And they're like, well, go sit at one of the back desks, but, you know, just don't make it blatantly obvious that your eyes are closed so the cameras don't see you. Because we had like 50, 60 cameras in the back because of all of the money, because our office was where the main bank for the casino was, where the main safe was for the cash and the chips and everything. But she was like full out asleep with her head in her hand. I'm like, you can't be falling asleep up here at this front desk. And I told them when they were asking me how training was going, I'm like, she's falling asleep. I don't know if it's because she's pregnant. I don't know if it's because she's not used to being up at this time of night. I don't know if she wasn't able to get any sleep during the day. Like, I didn't know if she had other kids that she had to deal with, so she had to be up during the day. I didn't know anything about her situation, but I'm like, she's back here falling asleep. And they were like, oh. And I guess she went out on maternity leave because nobody ever said anything. She just wasn't there anymore. She wasn't on the schedule. And I was like, oh, maybe they fired her for falling asleep. No, she was out on maternity leave. Because before I left, she was back on the schedule. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't know you were still employed. Apparently, they were. Like, nobody ever really explained what happened to people. They just weren't there anymore. It's like, or daytime knew and we just weren't told at overnight and they just weren't there. I was like, oh, okay. But shortly after the guy who I was trying to train started working there, who just was blank stare guy, didn't seem to understand a lick of what I was saying. And I didn't know how else to explain anything to them. Because I'm like, you gotta understand this because, you know, our customers come in all shapes and sizes and ethnicities. Like you gotta be able to communicate with them to some degree, right? And even the other casinos. Because, like, there's gonna be times where you're the only one here. And you need to be able to let the execs know what's going on, or you need to be able to make phone calls, or you need to be able to talk to other people. Like this is part of the job. I know it sucks, but this is what it is. It's a very communicating job. It's not just data entry. But even the data entry he didn't seem to understand either, so I don't know what he would do all shift, but shortly after he started working there, we would have refiling to do. So we had these huge rolling filing cabinets. Because we had a lot of casino credit lines. Even if you didn't end up getting approved for a credit line, if you applied, you had a folder that was kept, like, forever, essentially. I don't know if there was a destruction date on the folder, but essentially you had one. I don't think we were allowed to destroy files ever. They had to be kept there for legal purposes, because there were times where the legal team would be sending requests down where we had to make dummy files, which essentially were secondary copies. Like, we would have to take an entire folder of someone's credit history when they weren't paying their markers or stuff was bouncing, or and if the legal department had to take them to court, we had to make up a secondary copy of these folders, because the original, for legal purposes, could not leave that office. Our asses were in major trouble if a file left the office. So when we made these extra folders, we had to very specifically write on the cover, dummy file. Holy cow, this is not undoing.
What's up?
I have a knot. It does not.
Here, you can look at my flamingo while I fix it.
Okay, good luck. Husband's making a flamingo.
Finally.
That's not coming out too bad. Pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, sorry it's more of a bust. That wasn't the original intention, but...
You know, if you got a longer piece of wood, you could make these into pens. And then you could, like, hollow out a little piece on the inside with the Dremel and get the pen inserts.
I probably could.
Yeah, this one's deeply fucked.
Yeah, you did a good job. You did a good job. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out what how the knot is structured, so I can try to pin it apart. But it's so fucking tiny.
I know. That's the worst one I've had today. This thread, man.
Nope. You might have to scoot for a second. Sorry, just bending over like that is not doing me
go put your
favors.
vest
No,
on.
I'm fine.
No, the camera.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Okay.
Okay.
You're gonna be visible.
You're okay.
It's you that didn't
You're
want to be.
okay. Alright, let's see here. Where are you?
I mean, if you throw the Be Right Back screen up, that might cover it. So you can
I'm
be closer.
fine. I don't need to be closer. I need to work on this. Let's see.
Cow, what you doing?
Let's see.
Where's Bean?
I do not know.
Oh, it's in the window.
Okay, so there's that. Oop.
Meow.
You did a very good job with this.
Didn't I, though?
Yeah, okay, you're shit out of luck, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because I can't get the pin in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a lost cause here.
That is quite the foobar.
Sorry, I tried.
That's alright. It's not the first time it's happened.
Really?
Well, I mean, it's the first time today, but
Oh,
it's...
okay. That's what I was.
Oh, shit. How am I gonna...
Cut off where the knot is and then pull it out through the back so you can tie it off.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how to do. Oh, right. So after that guy started working there, we're not entirely sure what happened, but all of the sudden, there were notes being left at night, at the end of the day. Need to update this file. Can't locate it. I'm like, what do you mean you can't locate it? Like, we can't find it. It's not where it's supposed to be. Everything was supposed to be filed by last name alphabetically. And they're like, yeah, we can't find it. I'm like, what do you mean you can't find it? It has to be here. And they're like, we cannot find it. So, on these slow nights, it then, I kind of took it upon myself because I was tired of not being able to find files, and every day it was beginning to be like, yeah, we can't find this file. This file's missing. Next night, we've got 2 files we can't find. I was like, what is happening? Like, we were getting mad at one of the departments in the cashier's cage because they would pull a file to check a signature, and we didn't know if they were just not putting it back where they took it from, or if it was somebody in our department that was not refiling correctly. Because if it was the other department, that was an easier fix. It was just like, hey, we have our own little filing system over here. If you need a file, that's fine, but could you do us a favor and not refile it? Can you just put it on the shelf? We'll have a bucket that you can put it in. If you could just put it in that bucket, that would be great. That would help us out more than you refiling it. Like, we're not trying to be assholes about it, but we've got an issue going on and we need to figure out where it's stemming from. And they were like, yeah, fine. And yeah, no, this one's fucked to hell.
Told you.
I was trying to give it one more shot. Let me put you over there. And they said they're like, yeah, okay, still gonna find it. So then on the slow nights, I ended up going through every single file. I was grabbing the buckets out of the filing cabinet. Actually, it wasn't even the whole bucket. I was just grabbing every single file, stacking them on the desk for like that section. Like, I would grab like 4 to 5 sections of buckets at a time, stack them on the desk, and then I was going through every single file while I was sitting down because it was a lot on my neck to stare up. And that way they could see what I was doing. And checking every single last name to make sure everything was in alphabetical order. And I found files that were misfiled that we hadn't even known were misfiled yet. I was like, what in the absolute freaking hell is going on in here? And, you know, I was telling them I found X number of files not in the right place. But that's too far out. The issue seemed to calm down a bit when the guy who didn't understand a thing I was trying to tell him wasn't there. And then when he came back, it started up again. So I'm like, y'all, how about you have him not file? Because I'd rather he not file at this point than us need a folder and not be able to find it in a hurry. Because this is getting stupid. So I don't know whatever happened after that point. But I was also on the subpoena team for a while. But they put 2 of us on the subpoena team. So that meant when legal sent down an email asking for specific file to be copied for them, it was going to 2 of us. I thought it was really only supposed to go to me, or maybe it was going to both of us, and then if I didn't have time to do it, I would let the daytime person know, and then they would take care of it. But the daytime person, I only rarely saw her, and it wasn't always the same daytime person. It would depend on what day of the week it was as to who I would see, essentially, first thing in the morning for who was relieving me. Couldn't get my fingers in there. That wasn't fun. And the one lady, wasn't always leaving a note for me as to whether or not she had time and saw it before she left to take care of it. So I'd be like, oh, do we need to make this file? And come to find out, I'd be starting to do it and then found the duplicate. And I'm like, oh, so she already did it. And then it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to bother anymore, because if she's taking care of them during the day, I was like, just tell me if you can't get to it, or if you didn't get to it during the day, and then I'll try to take care of it that night. Because it was easier to do them overnight. Well, the theory was that it was easier to do them overnight, because A, it wasn't as busy in the department with customers needing things throughout the day. And because during the day it was a whole different kind of department. Like, you were doing constant bank calls and talking to daytime people that had different needs and situations. I did not like working during the day because I hated doing bank calls, but I hated doing them even more at night. Hated doing the bank calls so much. Because the banks were not easy to work with, because a lot of the time they didn't want to talk to you. They didn't care if the customer gave you the authorization. They didn't care if the customer was on the phone. Some of them would not talk to you. And we couldn't ask the bank employees questions. The customers had to ask them, or we would have to ask the question and then they would have to ask the customer, you know, are you authorizing this to be answered? And it was a whole fiasco, personally. Was not a fan of it at all. But it was part of the job. But usually at night we could get access to the copy machines easier. There was 2 copy machines in the back where our department was. One was for the cashiers and their supervisors to use. The other one was supposed to be for us. However, everybody that came in there from other parts of the casino that needed to be back there, or even a lot of times the cage cashier supervisors and all that, would insist on using the copy machine that was right at our front counter, so they didn't have to walk all the way to the back copy machine. And I'm like, look, y'all, technically our machine. You can't give me a bunch of shit when I'm using our machine for our work. Like, if I have to photocopy a file, I have to be up here photocopying a file. One file I had to make a dummy file for. A duplicate file. Was so old. As in, they had had this account for so long. We had a standard manila, is it manila? Just like your standard, like, cream colored file folders, right? And when those got full, to where those wouldn't want to close anymore, we graduated to an expandable folder. Those were green. And they were a little bit more reinforced on the closey side. And it was kind of like threaded and duct taped and stuff. The one person I had to photocopy their file for had 2 of those green folders, and it was like 2 dictionaries stacked on top of each other. We had to photocopy every single page, front and back. Every decision that was ever made, which is in one section of the folder, and then every single report we've ever ran. I think I went through 3 reams of paper in the photocopier. And people kept trying to interrupt me to get in there to make photocopies instead of going to the back photocopy machine. I was pissed. I was like, can you not see I'm doing something? I'm going to be here a while. And I need to be up here on this one. Because if they need me, I can't be in the back. I have to be up here watching in sight of our counter. You all have another copy machine that you can use. They were so mad at me that day. They're like, yeah, you can't be doing this. And I'm like, excuse me? You have another photocopier. And technically this is the credit department's photocopier. So you can just, you know, screw off. Don't tell me what I can't and can't be doing when you're not my boss. You're not even in my department. I was like, screw off. I was like, I have to do this for legal. I'm not doing this for the fun of it. So you can mind your own fucking business. What legal wants, legal gets, and it has to be done in a timely manner because they have court dates. And then legal had to come down and sign the folders out. We had like a form or something that they had to sign saying that they were taking duplicate file this and it was in their possession. And then they had to sign it back into us. So we know we received it back. Don't be telling me what I can and can't do. I was like, and don't you dare make me lose my place. That was infuriating. Because some of the cage supervisors and some of the cashiers acted like they owned the place back there, and I'm like, no, we share this space. And we only share some of it. Trust me, I'd much rather we had our own office back here closed off from you guys. Especially when that one guy was bothering me. He was getting real creepy. Wasn't sure if I was overreacting, but you don't touch me anywhere when we're not really friendly with each other. We're like cordial, but you're not my friend. Friends don't stare at each other through clear cubicle walls like they're in a trance when they're supposed to be leaving. It was creepy. Oh, right. I forgot where I was. I forgot I still needed to finish that other one that we had to suddenly stop on. Yeah, no, there was this one cage cashier. Oh, that's definitely gonna look weird. Who would try to act friendly with me, but I was polite. I was like, oh yeah, hi. But I didn't really talk with them, right? And I would be doing my work. And I kept telling, when I noticed, I started telling the cage supervisors, I'm like, hey, one of your cashiers keeps staring at me when they're going to leave. I'm like, it's weird. And they keep sitting down next to me at the desk near the front counter to sign their key in and out. Nobody else does that. Even the ones that I do kind of talk to, they don't do that. They sign it out at their window, at your bank window over there, and they're on their way. And for a while, they were joking that, oh yeah, he's your boyfriend. I'm like, no, he's not. Don't say that. That's not funny. It got to the point where they started noticing and would start yelling at him for sitting down at my desk. It was a two-person desk when he was supposed to be signing his key in to go home. They're like, come on, let's go. Time clock, you need to get out of here. And if I was sitting at the one computer that got email on it, because only one of our computers did get in-house email, checking to see if any subpoena requests had come down. We had clear cubicle walls around that section of computers for us. I could see him standing there near the back copy machine staring at me through the cubicle walls. Just standing there, frozen, staring at me. Not talking to anybody else, looking at me, staring silently at me. To the point where I had to start hiding from him. Where I was dicking around up at the front counter whenever he was going to leave, if I saw him come back to sign his key in, if he was working that day, waiting for him to leave. Or I would pretend to be filing, or actually filing, and hiding in the rows of the filing cabinet to avoid him. I'm like, this is fucking weird. So then, the one day, I was sitting upstairs, killing time before my shift, because I was there early and Russell had to start. Well, you know what it was? I think Russell started at 11 and I started at midnight. I think that's what it was. And, so I came in when he had to be there, so I didn't have to travel alone. And he had to go clock in, so I was sitting there by myself reading. And dude just walks up and plops his ass down at my table. There were many other open tables. And starts talking to me, and I'm like sitting there kind of dumbfounded. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, the hell? And I'm like, why are you sitting here? I was like, is there really no other tables? And looked up. No, there was tables everywhere. And I was so confused and so bewildered. I'm like, oh, hey, I gotta go. I like pretended to be surprised by the time. I'm like, oh, I have to go do something. Sorry. And I think I went and hid in the bathroom, being kind of freaked out. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I think I had told either my supervisor or his supervisor. I'm like, this is weird. And later on, as this kept happening, I was sitting there reading yet again, and they had like picnic table booth kind of benches where you could really only get out the one side of the table in some areas. So I was sitting in one of those because it was easier to keep an eye on the one clock, and it was right near the door, so I could just get up and run to clock in. He came up and stood at the end of my bench, on the end that I'm sitting on, and was basically blocking me from getting up. Right? Like, I could not get up without knocking him over. And he put his hand down on my shoulder. And it was just all very, like, menacing and creepy. And I'm like, who the fuck is touching me? And I, like, whipped my head up, and I'm like, what? And he's like, oh, hi, how are you today? Being all super friendly. And I'm just, like, looking at his hand touching me. And I'm like, the fuck? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, I gotta go. And I, like, jumped up. He had to step back out of the way. And I, like, immediately went downstairs, and I was like, yo, where's his supervisor right now? I wasn't even clocked in yet. I was so upset. And they're like, what's going on? I'm like, now he's touching me. And they're like, what? I'm like, he put his hand on my shoulder, and I couldn't get up from where I was sitting upstairs. And I'm done. I've had enough. I was like, this is getting way too weird. Like, I just want him to leave me alone, okay? Just want him to leave me be, to ignore me. I'm not here. I don't exist. That's how he needs to treat me. I'm a ghost. He has no reason to interact with me. I'm not friendly with him. Like, dude was married too, and I was married at this point, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, why aren't you leaving me be? And I was just like, oh my god. So then they had to, oh really? They had to pull him into the office and talk to him. Because I was like livid. I was shaking. I'm like, no, this is not okay. This is not okay. This is like a boundary too far. No. And, wait, was there a secondary one, or did I just create a secondary one? I think I created that one, but I might have by accident. And I was just like, no, we're not doing this. And they had to talk to him. And apparently it ended up being like a sexual harassment filing and claim. And I'm like, look, I just want the guy to leave me alone. And then I had to write a statement and put it in my file. And then HR got involved, and they actually stopped me the one day I was trying to leave. And they had to talk to me and interview me about what had happened. And I'm like, oh my god, I just want him to leave me alone. I was like, this is too much. I was like, I guess he's okay, but I just want him to leave me alone. This has been going on for a while. I've had enough. I just want him to leave me alone. they had to have other witnesses in there when they were talking to him and trying to explain to him, you know, that's not cool, don't do that. And then they had to make sure that he wasn't scheduled to work in the main cage when I was there. They had to keep putting him on the other side of the casino. It turned into this whole huge thing. But then, maybe a week or two into this putting him on the other side of the casino business and trying to make sure he wasn't scheduled in the same place that I was, because I didn't have a choice. I had to be in that office. Cat, get off my chair. No. They ended up, there was like a big to-do going on in the cashier's cage. I think when I walked in that night or partway through my shift or something, I'm like, what the heck is going on? That was Cal being mad that Russell pulled him off my chair.
There, you can stay up there, okay?
That's all that was. He's a drama queen. The cage supervisors were being all flustered, and I was hearing them saying, well, they have to pull the tapes, and then somebody else is like, I need to go upstairs, security has the tapes ready for me, I need to go look at them. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? And then security supervisors were down there, and there was paperwork being filled out, and then later that night, the one cage supervisor is like, well, you don't have to worry about him anymore. Who I had been told he had been being weird and who was aware of the situation. And I was like, what? She's like, you don't have to worry about him anymore. I was like, why? She goes, we had to fire him tonight for attempting to steal because his drawer was X amount of dollars short. And he allegedly put a certain denomination chip next to his window, or next to the rack instead of in the rack that he was supposed to put it in. And when he closed down his window, he never put it back in the rack. And they don't know if he was trying to steal, but it looked like it, and you don't fuck with the casino's money. So, they were letting him go. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I didn't want the guy fired because I know he's got a family to take care of. I just wanted him to leave me the fuck alone. So I don't know if it was intentional or if he just completely, his brain wasn't functioning and he fucked up. I don't know. But to say I was relieved would be the understatement of the century. I kind of wish that had happened before I had to make a big scene and fuss over it, because just wanted to come in and do my job and be left the fuck alone. There was a couple of bankers that I would talk to, but I really didn't talk to any of the cashiers because they didn't really have time to talk. Like, they were busy. They were busy dealing with customers, and there was a wall separating us most of the time. And they, like, couldn't leave their window unless they had a problem or a question or something. There's really no reason for us to interact. And I talked to one of the cleaning guys when housekeeping was back there, emptying the trash and stuff. He was kind of cool.
Beans.
Beans doesn't know what that means. Beans only knows go hard and bother cow.
Go on. Look at him some more.
Let's see if I can hang it. Alright, what if I put you there? Alright, that's a little bit better. Alright. Yeah, man. Jersey Shore just got pummeled with snow. I'm so glad we weren't there for that. It was still snowing this morning after snowing like all night. I was like, wow. Like, no. No, thank you. Absolutely not. Alright, that's not too bad. That's pretty much all of our shell. So let me slide this guy in there. See if I can get up under some of these stitches. Definitely have to get one of these that doesn't have like a support bar in the middle so you can get your hand in there to do the stitching. Yeah, so that's not so bad. That's kind of how we're sitting. Now I have to figure out a color for the turtle himself, and I'm kind of thinking maybe this color. So let's pull out this. We've got 4 turtley limbs. Now, again, I'm doing 3s. So, I'm gonna separate this out. As best as we can here. So I've got some sea life worked in that I kind of put in place with my stencils. But it's not just, like, it's not all sea life. I do have just some, like, random blobs in there. And those I'm gonna do in different shades of blue, I think. Alright, so I'm going to put the other piece that I've separated out onto what I'm calling a working card, so it doesn't get tangled up or lost. Or eaten by a cat. I have managed to get some of the yarn fluff bags topped off. Sometimes I can get this through the eye without too much trouble. And other times, forget it. At least those threaders when it's on the 3-strand are a little bit easier to use. When it's on the 6, forget it. Or I'm just using eyes that are too small. Both are entirely possible. All right. Let me get this guy back in the clamp. Now I know I'm kind of working upside down at the moment. I do get that. But it makes it a lot easier for me to reach this area. Because that is a bit important. Let's where I was kind of in the right spot. Hopefully. Hopefully that counts as a right spot. I'm excited. We're going to be going to the zoo again soon. Like maybe another month or so. I gotta look up when spring break is. And also when school gets out, because I think we've got a narrow window unless we go next month. We're working around the end of year field trips. So we can't really go too much in the summer because it gets so hot. We've done that before. Because we keep forgetting it's a totally different temperature in Tulsa than it is here. And we got there the one day. I've been burned by not checking the weather there before, so now I try to make sure that I am doing so. And it said that the train wasn't running due to inclement weather. And I'm like, it wasn't supposed to rain. I'm like, what do you mean inclement weather? And they're like, it's going to be too hot for us to run the train. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know if, like, I don't know why. I don't know if it's too hot for the train conductor or if the tracks got too hot and they couldn't run them if the temperature was over a certain thing. I don't know, but I was like, that's really weird. And then he pulled out his phone and he looked up the thing, and there was a heat advisory in effect, and they're like, heat index of 103, and I'm like, oh no. But we had already driven 2.5 hours, and we're like, shit. So we stayed, and there was also a Bible study, vacation Bible camp or something there, or some kind of program. And they had the kids there, I guess, for a field trip or whatever. Some kind of summer camp or whatever, because the kids had shirts on and there were chaperones. And the chaperones were just so done with the day that they were just letting the kids run around inside the air-conditioned buildings. But the kids were getting a little unruly, and a couple of them like ran right into us, and I'm like, hey, what the heck? And then they got yelled at by the chaperone, and it's just like, oh my goodness. And at that point, we're like, you know what? I think maybe we're just gonna call it a day. Not sure if that's where I wanted to come up at. Nope, that was not where I wanted to be. Let's try there. Let's try there without being a knotted mess. Okay, I'm trying to grab it when it's underneath to a degree, just to keep it from getting too bunched up here. I have a feeling that's not the right hole. Oh no, that'll work. Okay. So that's fine. So you can kind of see his turtley shape kind of taken a life of its own here. And I do apologize because this one is going to take a while to get through. I have no idea what that noise was. Do you know where Bean is? I don't know if that was him and Littles messing about, or if he's just in the other room getting into trouble now. Could be either. Okay. But I do like how these colors are popping on the black background. Very much. So in some of these spots, I've got just a tiny thin layer of hot glue that I didn't realize was there. Dang it. Like I said, without even trying. So I don't know if this paint is flaking off or if these are spots that I missed that I'm starting to see. So I definitely... It's gonna do it again. Oh no, good. I was worried there for a second. I came up through the same hole again. So, I mean, if there's one thing I'm really good at, it's definitely that. For sure. But I do know this one's gonna take a little bit of time, and I'm only marginally sorry about that because this is something I wanted to do. So if you're here for it, cool. If you're not, that's cool too. I'm gonna be working on it regardless. You are free to come and go as you please, or you can catch it on the YouTube channel and play it back at increased X speed, whatever you prefer. At some point, I do want to try to do some Bob Ross inspired embroidery. I'm still kind of learning some stitches. I mean, I could just do like long and short needles if it comes to it, but I also had an idea for doing some tree trunks and stuff that I'm like, oh, hey, that might be interesting. That I want to remember when I get around to trying my own stuff. I'm sure it's not new or innovative. It's just an idea I had on my own, and I'm sure other people have done it. I just kind of had the thought. I was like, oh, that might be all sorts of fascinating and help with like popping the piece up a little bit and giving it a little bit of dimension. Alright, so that one's kind of in that way. Where are we? Okay. So I'm gonna pop up there. And I'm gonna bring that to there. Ow. Stab the canvas, not the finger. Need to get closer to the desk here. Didn't realize I was quite so far away there. You can kind of see what we're doing. Like, I do know today's been upside down entirely, but some days are like that. All right. Don't know. Yeah, we probably won't get the turtle completely finished today, but we'll be well on our way to. Just because we still have a few limbs here to go. Now, once I get done refilling all of my needle felting bags, I might work on this a little bit off stream and record it. Just so we don't spend the whole entirety of this next year working on this one thing only on stream. So I do only stream for a few hours before life has to keep moving. We have to go and deal with stuff. Like if we didn't need to... Well, I don't know if the dogs are getting the Borking place this afternoon. It's still pretty cold out, and I don't know if this temperature is accurate that I am currently seeing at the bottom of windows. It's not always up to date. So I'm probably going to have to check on, dang it. There I go. I'm up through the wrong hole again. Did I do it again? Yep, did it again. If I go back down through that hole. Alright, that's a little better. Alrighty. No, this is starting to look like something. I wanted to get the turtle in before I started working on some of like the background watery blobs So that way I knew I wasn't accidentally filling in a turtle blob with the wrong color, because that would have been a bit of a pain to fix. But at least I didn't lose too much of the stencil shape when I came back in and added the hot glue to it. I was worried that that was going to happen. I mean, it's slightly misshapen, but it's not so bad. It's nothing too disastrous. I definitely do like the effect of the hot glue. Giving it that raised up look to it. We are all the way down here in this bottom corner, like the very corner. That's kind of visible. Now instead of just tying off and moving over, I just moved over. So hopefully we didn't waste too much thread sliding over this way. I don't think we have. I do have a finger guard I should probably be using, since I can't tell very well where my needle's coming down through. I'm very close to the stretcher bars here in the corner, so I do need to be careful about my angles here to make sure I can still get the thread through. Okay. So tomorrow we will be back to working on our needle felted magnet. I'm gonna try, it's always the kiss of death when I say this, but I'm going to try to start a few minutes early so that we might have a shot at finishing tomorrow. We will see. I really don't want it to go to a fourth session on that one. It's bad enough that it's going to a third session on something that probably should have only taken me 2. But I didn't get to work for the full 4 hours that I wanted to on it, because I think my neck was bothering me real bad the one day. Kind of getting sensory overloaded. So I'm having a bad neck day and then I try to do that on top of it. I feel like I've got a knot or a tangle on the back side of that somewhere. I just come up through the same hole as I did. Well, that's not what I wanted. Alright, so if I just go down through the other hole, it seems to fix that. Okay. Yes, we are very, very close to that stretcher bar. I had put up guidelines to where I believed the stretcher bars were, but sometimes that only works so well, right? Okay. So we're almost done this leggy. This flipper, I guess, would be more appropriate. Oh, maybe one more stitch there. Maybe like right there. Yeah. So let's see, how much thread do I have? I don't think I have enough thread to completely finish this one, and definitely not that one. But maybe. The heck? Hello? What the heck happened there? My string got all sorts of angry there for some reason. No idea why. What the heck? What's the matter? Why are we being dumb? I don't know. Why are we being silly? I have no idea. I just got real mad all of a sudden. Yeah, I have no idea. I don't see any. Any major issue? Oh. Well, that's an issue. Dumb issue. Let's get a fresh set of strands here. Oh. It's just gonna be silly here. It's like, no, you said you weren't gonna do this leggy. And I'm like, I changed my mind. I want to do at least as far as I can get with the leggy. Okay. I'd hate to waste that much thread. I mean, the thread might not be super expensive, but it still costs money. And it's not like I'm done with this color. Like, if I was done with the color, that would be something else, but we're not. We are very much not. But I do know that we at least have enough split to finish this guy. Right, because I have the other half of this strand still on my working card, right? So we got that going for us. All right. And we did learn a few things about the camera position when I am working on this edge area, about where I need to keep it, that I need to be checking in more often with my Kindle. But it looks like my Kindle chat keeps connecting and reconnecting. I don't know if Twitch is being twitchy today. Or if it's just the mobile chat. Maybe we do have enough. I wasn't so sure we did. But maybe we do. I mean, that'll be one less thing that we have to do next time. Nope, that's not where I wanted to be. Yeah, but since I need to touch up this outer area, I think I'm just gonna wait until I am completely done doing all of my stitching to worry about it too much, because I might come in very carefully and dab a couple of edges around the thread. It looks a little white. Hopefully out without dabbing the let me slide that out of the way. So yeah, you can see I had to drag a big piece over that way. know if that actually knotted though. Because I don't really trust that it did not. Just gonna kind of run it under some of the other stitches there. Alright. So we'll flip this guy over. Okay, so you can kind of see we've got our turtley guy coming in up here. And then I've got one more flipper to deal with there. And then I can start to work on the background blobs around him. I do have a fish in here that I need to figure out what color I'm gonna do, but that is not a matter for today. So, try to get that kind of lined up there, and put my needle back in my impromptu sewing kit. Put my other threader in there as well. So yeah, that will do for today. So thank you guys for popping in and checking out how things are going on that. We almost got Mr. Turtle done. I might have been able to get there if I hadn't had that snafu with the knots, but it's alright. It's okay. We'll get there eventually. So I will see everybody tomorrow for needle felting as we continue to work on our magnet. We still have a little ways to go. I still have to finish getting in the shrubbery. Like, I don't know if we're gonna get there tomorrow because we still have that cabin to put in. So that's why I'm not so sure I'm gonna be able to fully complete it tomorrow, but maybe if I start early enough, we can. I don't know. It's gonna be a tough one because we've got a lot of extra bits and stuff happening, but I'm working on getting these shrubbies in and what have you. So we'll see how that goes. No promises on if we'll get that one done tomorrow or not. I'd like to, but we'll see. I don't want to rush either. So I will see everybody tomorrow for that. And then Wednesday we'll be back in Planet Zoo, migraine permitting, of course, for everything. So I will see everybody for that. Don't forget to follow the social links down below. Those will take you to the Ko-fi, the Blue Sky, and the YouTube channel where most of the live streams are archived. The Blue Sky is sort of like X-Twitter. I post when I'm about to go live, and I'll post any pictures of arty stuff that I've completed, or, you know, just scream into the void or let you know what's going on if I have to cancel or if I'm just running late or what have you. So that's a good place to check out there. And then Ko-fi, I've got a lot of the stuff I have completed posted up over there in gallery, and that's mostly what I use it for, but it's there for people that don't want to donate through Twitch. And then yeah, just the YouTube channel. So we do have an eBay store. There is a link to it somewhere. I don't have anything up on the eBay store currently right now though, so I'm gonna probably wait to repost anything until this round of farmers market giveaways happens, and then I'll reevaluate what I have left, and then maybe see about maybe posting something. I don't know. We'll see, and we'll take it from there. So I will see everybody tomorrow. Until next time, have a good one.